Today we're going to be installing a lift kit in my brother's Jeep. It's a Rusty's 4x4. How many inch lift?
4.5.
Our first step is to remove these shocks. We'll start here at the bottoms and also lower it to get in from the hood. Now we're getting the top of the shocks undone. There's here, and one right underneath the master cylinder.
Gonna need something to get on here.
That won't do it?
Remove vice grips.
Why won't that do it?
Turns
Alright, we're taking the nut off that holds the ball joint on for the track bar, and we can't get to it with a wrench, so we're just going to torch it off. Next we unbolt and remove these lower control arms.
Alright, go ahead.
There we go. Now I said not to get these mixed up, so I'll put these in how they come out of it.
These things.
This has got to go down more.
You want me to push up on this side?
Yeah, a little. There.
Now we're getting the springs ready to put in. Here we're using a set of spring compressors, and you want to make sure you do an equal amount of turns on each side to keep them nice and square, because these can be kind of dangerous. Alright, we slipped this right up in place. Didn't go too hard at all. And now we're taking the compressor off and get the spring just where we want it. Alright, we have the spring in place, set in place, and we have this side of the axle strapped up so this brake line doesn't get torn, and we're letting the axle down a little bit further on this side so we can get this next spring in. Alright, so that's more or less in place. Now we are installing the lower control arms, which we should have done before we put the springs in. But we'll just use this transmission jack and we'll load the springs up and it'll be okay.
Okay.
Right now we're putting our shocks in. Gotta put them in the upper position first. Actually, if you figure out what size wrench goes on the top of this, it'd be a lot easier than these vice grips. We didn't end up recording all of this, but what we've done is we've got this bar in and this stabilizer in. All pretty much just bolt-on stuff. Nothing too exciting. The spacers, we didn't have these in the kit and they were left out, so we had to wait a couple days for these to come in. But they just dropped the sway bar down. And what else? Oh, we've also done the cross member drop. There's this little bar here that is just a spacer. 2 bolts go on the cross member that changes the what do you call it? The transfer case angle on this drive shaft, so that's good. And also on the back. Now we're working on the back. We're gonna get these springs unbolted. Working on unbolting the shocks. Another thing I should make note of is this bracket was also provided in the kit to get this away from the frame a little bit more and get a little more clearance on that because of the lift. And not too crazy with how it kicks it out towards the tire. Seems to be kind of a odd way to go about doing it, but I guess it works. Guess we'll see. Okay, we've got all these U-bolts unbolted. It's kind of a pain getting onto this one because of the sway bar. Also disconnected the brake line here from the body mount. I'm not really sure exactly how that goes on yet. We're gonna wait until we drop it down, then we can see where it's supposed to go. We have the axle unbolted, drop down. Now we're gonna work on getting the springs off. So we got new bolts for the shackles back here. Getting the axle line to place where it needs to go. The springs aren't bolted down yet, they're just kind of sitting there in place. So we just finished installing the spring up here. We supported it underneath the drum and pulled down on the spring here so we can get this bolt lined up in the hole, and we got those fully tightened in. And now we're trying to see if we can tighten these U-bolts down enough to force this pin into the pad, you know, the alignment pin on the spring into the pad on the axle. It's a tight fit. If we can't get it to just kind of press fit in there by doing this, we're gonna have to take the springs off and enlarge the hole in the pad. are installing the rear shock. We've taken the sway bar out because we don't have any spacers to use it with this lift. What have we left to do? We gotta figure out this brake line. And is that it for the lift? Other than put the big tires on? There it is. Hard to get a good shot of it here in the shop. Not enough room, but it's quite a bit bigger and taller than a stock. In the daytime, we'll have to pull it out and do pictures. Compare them to the ones we took before we did anything to it. But we still got to fix the rotted section of the frame forward of the driver's side rear tire. And what else you got to do? Oh, you got to get that brake line mounted in place. And I think that's about it, right?
Yeah.
Other than getting alignment. You happy with it?
Yeah.
Like to see how it rides.
Well, that's when you read the
Alright, so obviously that noise wasn't good. And we took the serpentine belt off, and
See that, Travis?
I don't know if I can show you down. Here it is.
Crack that is?
Down there. The alternator. That's froze up. So we'll have to tear that off and get that replaced, I guess. And then there it is. His new belt is squeaking a little bit still. All done.